Welcome to the next final chapter episode. This is a series where I try to finish all the series that I've started over the last 10 years and never finished. So it is time to continue the series, finish the series, or DNF them. We are starting this vlog with 37 series that I have on hold. And the first book that I've already read for this vlog and that wasn't planned to read at this point was Leave Me Behind by K.M. Moronova. It is a dark military romance, and please read the trigger warnings because this book is dark, is heavy and is pretty fucked up, but I loved it. It is enemies to lovers, and yeah, there are enemies almost through the whole stories, and real enemies, not just rivals. They both work in an underground military squad for super dangerous missions, and both our main characters, Bones and Bunny, are a little bit psychopaths because they are both cold-hearted killers. When they get an order to kill somebody, they do it without asking questions. At the beginning of the story, they worked in different squads, and their squads have to unite for a mission, and that went totally wrong. Bunny's whole squad died in that mission. She is the only survivor of her squad, and Bones' partner died in that mission. So they make each other responsible for what happened, and that's why they hate now. But Bunny has to join now the Mellum squad, so the squad Bones is in and is the new sniper in the team. And it gets pretty exciting. In the first half we have training missions to get Bunny in the team, except her team doesn't want her in the team, and they bully her physically and mentally to leave the team. But the point where the story really picked up for me and I was totally invested was the second half. But I won't tell why because I don't want to tell you spoilers. But I inhaled the story at this point. I think I read the last 40% of the book in one sitting because I couldn't put the book down. There were plot twists I didn't saw coming. There were plot twists I did saw coming. I cried more than one time in the end and was pretty excited by the whole story. There was so much tension, so much action. I loved it. And the spicy scenes were really spicy, but kinky and fucked up. You are warned with that here. A few plot points could have been a little bit more in detail. A few pages more would have made the story better. But I can't tell you the plot points because they are in the second half of the story that I won't spoil. But I can say I can recommend the book if you want to read a dark military romance story that is fucked up. And at this point it is a standalone, but K.M. Moronova is writing a sequel at this moment. So I count this as a series that I'm now on track. And we'll see when book 2 comes out. I will definitely read that. But the next book I read for this vlog is the fourth book of the Boys of Tommen series, Redeeming Six by Chloe Walsh, the second book about Joey and Eve, and I already started this book and am almost halfway through the story, and I have to say this is the best book of the series so far. It is super heavy. I can't read more than a few chapters per day, so I started this at the beginning of February. So on February 1st directly, and we have now February 18th, and I'm only halfway through the book, and not because it's bad, it's because it is super good and I can't handle the emotions. I thought the story of Donnie and Shannon was heavy and super emotional. This book is worse, but I love it. I love all the feelings, I love all the heartbreak, I love that I cried more than one time at this point, and I personally can only recommend this series because I really love it, and it is one of my all-time favorite series, so I can't wait to continue and tell you more about it later. Probably not about the plot, because I don't want to spoil anything. That's because I haven't told you anything about the plot here so far, because it is the second half of the story, but it breaks my heart and it will probably break it more than one time in the second half. I finished Redeeming 6, and what can I say? I love it. I love it so much that I can confidently say that this is one of my highlights of 2025. It was heartbreaking, it was super emotional, but I love this kind of stories, and it is a highlight for me. While reading this, I had to think a little bit of A Little Life, because that was also emotional damage on almost 1,000 pages like this, at least in the German version. But this is way more relatable, I think, and not so much trauma after trauma after trauma. This is one big trauma, and Joey lives constantly in this trauma and can't escape the situation. So this was really hard to read, and I don't know if I can recommend it. I think it is the category for me 5-star read to me, but I can't recommend it because it is so heavy. Please read the trigger warnings of this book in this whole series, and please just read this if you are mentally stable because this book can have an impact on your mental health, and I think you should know that. But I really love this book, and I can't say that enough. I cried so many times during reading, and I really felt Joey's pain. I understand why he's addicted to drugs and that he can't escape this easily, that the drugs are his escape to his trauma and his world, and that Eve, his girlfriend, is his only hope, the one person that is just there for him and that gives him hope and a future. And we all know at this point, while reading this book, how the situation is at his home with his father and his mother, and when Joey is going through, because we read Shannon's story, the story of his little sister. That was book 1 and 2 of the series. Joey, the older and protective brother of his siblings, is now book 3 and 4, and this is book 4, but I think I've said that before. But it was totally different reading his POV now. It was so much worse than expected. What's going on in his head and how fucked up this is. And it hurt so much. As I said, it was heartbreaking, but I felt every second of this, and I understood what's going on in his head, what's going on in Eve's head. And as I said, it is so relatable, but there was so much pain inside and outside. and I can't wait now to read Taming 7, which will be published in German in June, I think. So I will wait for that and will continue the series then, because fingers crossed I get a review copy of it. I haven't asked yet because I wanted to finish Redeeming 6 before asking and want to write my review for Instagram in German, and I still have to do that. But you get my thoughts now, and probably I have done my review at the point you're seeing this. So I'm up to date with the German publishing of Boys of Tommen now, and that means I'm down to 36 series now, and hopefully I can finish another series in this vlog, because the next book I want to read is The Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli, the second book of the Crimson Moth duology, which will be out at this point you're seeing this, because this book will be published at the end of February. And fingers crossed I can show you the hardcover edition of it in my next clip to this vlog. But it is not here yet, but it will be shipped today. But thanks to HarperCollins UK, I got an ARC of this and could start reading it early. I started in January and read the first few chapters and really loved it. I won't tell you much about book 2, but I can tell you it is an enemies to lovers romance with a lot of action and tension, because we have Rune, which is a witch, and we have Gideon, and he is a witch hunter, and he hates the witches. The witches are all damned in this republic and gets killed if the people find the witches. And Rune is the person known as the Crimson Moth. She's hiding in public and tries to rescue other witches so they don't get killed. And Gideon's order is now to find the Crimson Moth and reveal her identity, and because he thinks Rune is the Crimson Moth, he starts flirting with her and get close to her, and Rune tries the same with him to find out the location of one of the imprisoned witches she wants to rescue. So they start fake dating, and that's how the story begins. We are now at book 2, or I am, and there is again a lot of tension, a lot of enemies vibe, and I really love it so far. I'm halfway through the book now and can say that I really enjoy reading it. I really love book 1. I'm loving book 2 so far, and there's a lot of back and forth between flirting and feelings for each other, and the orders to kill the Crimson Moth, and Rune trying to escape to fulfill her own plans to impede a war. So as I said, a lot of action, a lot of tension between the characters, and I really love that. And think Kristen Ciccarelli did an excellent job on that. And I can't wait to read now the second half of The Rebel Witch, and I will do that now and will talk to you after finishing the book. My hardcover copy of The Rebel Witch arrived, and I also finished the book. So I can say now it was okay for me. I really loved the first half of the story, but I didn't like the second half of The Rebel Witch at all. And I'm so sorry for that, because I wanted to like it, but at some time between 40 and 50% of the story, it lost me. I've waited for character development and waited in this book. until at this point, so around halfway through the story, it annoyed me that I didn't get it and I couldn't find back in the story. There were a lot of plot points that I didn't find logical, and I think the characters behaved against what they believe, and it didn't make sense at all. But I really loved the love story between Gideon and Rune. I'm staying with that, and I also like how it ended. I just wish that the part we had in the last maybe 20% of the book, that we had more time for this plot, because that was the part that I wanted to read and it was way too short for me, way too easy handled, and other details of the story were way too detailed for me, especially because this is YA and I don't think some of the stuff that happened here was handled like YA. So in the end I would probably give that 3 stars. And let us remind, I gave The Crimson Moth 5 stars. I really loved that book. And the tension between the characters and the banter. And I really liked that here. Until at some point I didn't like that anymore, because I really wanted them to team up, to work together, to trust each other and to fight against the evil. But it happened way too late for me, and all that happened in the second half of the story was way too predictable for me, so plot point that probably should have surprised me didn't surprise me at all, and yeah, I lost interest. So very sad, but the good thing is now I finished another series with The Rebel Witch. So I am now down to 35 series. Reminder, I want to get the number down to 25 this year. So we still have a lot of work to do, but after this, I'm reading now Lover Avenged, the 7th book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and I also already finished part 1, Rache Engel in German. This is a story of revenge and Elena, and I'm not the biggest fan of instant love that we have a lot in this series, but I like the connection between Elena and Rev and how they behave. I like their discussions and how they treat each other. It is really cute and also really sad when we think about Revenge's backstory and what he has to deal with. I also like that we get Thor back, and not just in the physical way. I really feel for Red and Beth. They have also a subplot here in the story, and it makes me sad to read that, but also it is all very understandable how they feel and how they treat each other. And I like that it is realistic, that not every relationship is perfect at every point. And I really like that we get more of Vex and John. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I just didn't like how it ended here. And I also started part 2 today, and 130 pages in at this point. I don't know if I can finish this for this vlog, because today is Sunday. This vlog should go up on Tuesday and I need to edit the whole vlog. So we will see, but fingers crossed. I have 300 pages left, so a lot to read. And I can say I don't like how the story with Dex and especially John develops. I don't like the way we go here, but I understand why he feels like this and why he wants to change. I'm really feeling for Elena and Rev. There are a lot of sad things that happened in part 1 and they have to deal with now. But I really don't like that Rev has to lie so much. I know why he has to do it and that he risks everything if he tells the truth, but I hope we get there in part 2 now at some point. And I'm really sure we will get there. I can't remember much of the story, but I hope we get there. And I will give you one last update before I finish this vlog. And I did it! I finished Lover Avenged part 2. So the whole story of Revenge and Elena. And I can say I really liked it. The second half was full of action and drama and all the things that I need for a Black Dagger book. We had fight good against evil, we had romance, we had literally everything we needed. And after this ending, I can't wait to read the next book about John and Zex, because the ending for this couple, or soon-to-be couple, was very devastating. And I'm feeling the pain, my heart is broken, and I want it to be fixed. But I think it was the perfect ending for Revenge and Elena. And I'm glad they talked now about everything, that she knows the truth about him, that he quits his job, and that now everybody in the Black Dagger Brotherhood knows about Lash and what happened to him. I haven't remembered what happened to Wrath here in the book, but I'm really glad he found his way through all the struggles and is now okay with what happened to him and with his path in life. And I can't wait to read more of that, because he really settled now as king of the vampires and I really love him in his role. But this was now the final book of my vlog, because my time is over, and that means I have finished now these books, plus Leave Me Behind by K.M. Moronova. So 5 books for the series, finished 1 series, and read Boys of Tommen and the Dark Forces series so far, that I'm on track now with publishing dates. But there are enough series that I have to continue to fill this time, and I will continue to work on my series list in the next vlog. So not the next vlog that goes up, but the next vlog in the series. We are now down to 35 series, and we will see with which number I start in the next vlog. I will see you then in my next video. Please tell me in the comments if you have read anything from this and if you like the series or the book. Like the video if you wanna, follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!